Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Confidently Wrong.
That was a
Savon,
very subdued hello, gentlemen.
yeah.
Good morning,
Savon,
everybody.
here. Brian, also here. Wesley, not here. Brian, big dog. How you doing?
What up? We are here. Wes is absent. Kids are in charge today.
Yeah, boy, we in this thing. We took over the cuckoo's nest, baby. Wes about to be like, what y'all changed everything? Y'all started
Does
moving
that make
stuff
us
around.
the cuckoos?
Damn
I think we're
right.
the cuckoos.
Oh, yeah, damn right. We need to be institutionalized for our hot, scalding, amazing takes and opinions. The world wasn't ready for us, Brian. So they had to subdue us like an ancient Egyptian curse.
We will not be subdued.
We will
However,
not be silenced.
We will not be repressed.
But yeah, but you doing good, man?
I'm all right. It's been a wild week for me. And I know you were gonna bring up the Knicks anyway. So I'm just preempting you, man. I'm pulling an 8 Mile on you.
Poop your own pants so somebody else can do it.
I don't know if this is an Eminem 8 Mile or if this is a Cheddar Bob 8 Mile thing but I'm just gonna talk about it. This whole week all I've been doing is watching YouTube videos of people talking about Tibbs getting fired from the Knicks. Which is interesting. The NBA is a gift that keeps giving. Non-stop entertainment. Non-stop.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. I mean, your Knicks, they did their best. They did their thing. They had a really good run this year.
It was magical.
It's just a really weird. It's just a weird spot because the team is good, but also you can kind of feel the ceiling on them as well, and that's where it becomes this weird. Like lots of people love Tom Thibodeau, but he always gets fired because you feel like the cap is cool.
Oh, exactly.
He's
a floor raiser, not a ceiling raiser.
The end game of Tom Thibodeau always comes down to our defense is good, our offense is just them out there hooping, and he's going to play our stars into the ground like it's NBA 2K with no fatigue on. And it's like, for better or for worse, he's going to squeeze some good season out you, but you're probably not going to win. So, it's rough. On one hand, I like what he was doing for the team. On the other hand, they felt that there was a ceiling. But on the other hand, all right, is there someone better out there? Who knows? These are issues the Knicks will have to figure out over the summer. And
his name is Ime Udoka. That's what we need. It's not going to happen.
Either way, I'll have snarky hater comments, loaded in the barrel, ready to go.
Save it for yourself, Savon.
No.
Keep that in Detroit.
No.
Where no home games are won.
We're exporting that shit. All right. So yeah, we're look, I was waiting for Wes to interject and start all right, Wes, take over. Look.
It's you, man. It's you, big dog.
This is awful. I gotta run the offense for Tyrese Halliburton. Anyways, so yeah, today, y'all, we're gonna talk about The Last of Us, season 2, the rest of the season. When we first talked about this when the season premiered a couple months ago, several weeks ago, we did episodes, what was it, 2 through 3, a few had been out. We talked about and now we're getting into full-on spoilers territory, just full heads up. We talked about Joel's death. We talked about
if you were listening to this episode, you got to know Joel's dead by now.
At this point,
right?
I hope so.
Joel's dead.
I gave him a chance, so they had a, plausible, whatever. But yeah, at this point,
Deal
Joel's
with it,
dead.
people.
Jackson's been attacked. We've been setting up the entirety of what's this story of revenge and Anchor going to be. And here we are. The season concluded a couple weeks ago, and we're here to talk about it. So yeah, we have some fun questions, and I can't wait to hear what everyone else thought about this show because I had a lot of feelings about this. Mostly good. The others less negative, more just wonderings, more so than critiques one way or another. So we'll start with the first question.
Wonderings.
Wonderings.
I wonder.
Yeah, I wonder. So we're here to finish up our discussion of last season. We got lots of twists and turns in this tale of blood and vengeance. Brian, how did you enjoy the rest of the season after those first few episodes?
So I think this season in a way feels a lot like season 1 to some degree. I don't know if you guys, so I gotta be honest here. If I'm not on the episode, I ain't listening to this show. I don't really know what you guys talked about. Let's be real.
We haven't had a Last of Us discussion with all three of us? Oh man,
I don't think so.
Oh man, we should have just waited for Wes to get back.
Was I part of that discussion? I don't think I was part of that discussion. So you guys might have remarked how some of this season is responding to the criticisms of season 1. Season 1, people were like, oh, they kind of jumped around too much. They didn't spend enough time just developing the relationship between Joel and Ellie. Season 2, they have these other episodes, episode 1, episode 3, you could argue episode 6, giving relationships, giving quieter moments more time with main characters to develop the relationships, to let things simmer more, so that the higher peaks, the more climactic points of the season hit way harder, and that everybody is just much more emotionally invested into these characters. That said, even though they were doing some of that, I did enjoy this season. There were a lot of really great moments, a lot of oh my god moments, a lot of like what the fuck. But at the same time, I also think there's just a lot of missed opportunities in a way, and a lot of unevenness throughout the season, where not everything felt as strong or as thought out, or as necessary.
Give me an example.
As you would hope it to be. So, a lot of what I'm thinking about kind of maybe boils down to Dina and Ellie.
Okay.
And a lot of their travails together. One moment that sticks out in my mind that was not the best written moment was Dina's reveal that she's pregnant, and Ellie suddenly remarks, "I'm going to be a father." Right after they just hooked up for the first time, and you're like, "What are you talking about here, Ellie? Like, you all are life partners already? You just touched it like a couple of hours ago, and suddenly you're all in it. Like, what the hell? Like, who wrote that?" And it just felt like a moment like that was when the writers were really trying to force you to get to a place with these characters without actually letting it develop more naturally. So there are some things like that, and like also, this is the same episode actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, the trip, the subway train escape, great action moment, but the more that I think about some of these set pieces, the less that I feel like they did some necessary storytelling in this season, rather than just kind of like hitting some of the mile markers from the game itself, right? There's just no like, oh yeah, there's a subway scene in the game, and it's kind of epic playing through it, but seeing it unfold for TV, it's kind of like, okay, I get you got a nice budget and you wanted to have some action, but what are we really doing here? Do you
feel like the value of those scenes is more fun as an interactive moment?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Because to be clear, season 1 had moments like that too, right? Like I'm thinking when Sam and the brother were trying to navigate across the town and Joel is sniping with the rifle at a distance, like, that was straight out of the game. Are you saying that there's a distinction between an action scene that feels like this is better to play than to watch? And
yes,
do you think there are other scenes that also felt that way? Like, okay, I'm not even disagreeing with you necessarily, because sometimes the interaction is what makes it like, kind of like the Nora torture scene, right? The you pressing the buttons feels different than just the person doing it. But like, do you think that applies to other action sequences, like the battle for Jackson, which granted that wasn't in the game at all, but like we have some other stressful action scenes, or do you think that one in particular just felt like we needed some cool shit to happen for them to get from A to B, but it didn't really?
Yeah, it wasn't really moving the story along too much for me. Some of the other stuff in Seattle, when Jesse comes to the rescue, is a cool, intense moment, but it's also like, what are you two doing there? Like running through there, and like,
I think that's the moment where I think that's actually one of the moments where the show is very self-aware, where, and maybe I know my thoughts.
Where they're going in a camp direction.
No, not even like a camp direction. No, it was like more of a no, not camp at all. It was I like that there are multiple moments where the characters kind of almost had a not fourth wall moment, but like a very like the light click moment of like, yo, this is fucking stupid. Let's go home. That was actually an element that I liked this season of, oh, I'm glad everybody collectively recognizes that, like, this is kind of a dumb plan. Like,
I
all
mean,
of this collectively. But like,
yeah,
I'm
and I
glad they're
think
not
that
pretending other. I guess what I'm saying is that I'm glad they're not pretending otherwise. It'd be one thing if the show was about this half-ass plan and people weren't pretending it's half-ass. I actually think the desperation is and like the whole messiness of it is actually escalated for me a little bit because it all just feels so like, man, I don't. The show is really selling me on everybody just acting really dumb and out of emotion, which is what humans do. And I don't know. For me, that's actually like a pro of the season. But I don't disagree with you about some of the subway action of like, yeah, this is a cool sequence, but like, it was cool for cool's sake rather than actually having done anything.
right. Any real like big narrative stakes. Of course, like the end of that is the bite. They could have done that in a number of different ways. They didn't necessarily need to mimic something that happened in the game that
Well, the
is
subway
way
didn't
better in
happen.
the game because you're experiencing it.
Yeah, and the bite part was irrelevant to the subway because that was more so when they were in that building fighting the really smart ones, right? That was even separate from the. No, I don't disagree with you on that. In terms of how I've enjoyed the season, I overall enjoyed it. I think that this season, for me, what stood out was just the world building. They've done a really good job, for me at least, of selling just how fucked things in Seattle are. Like, it feels like this show is about the post-apocalypse, but man, the contrast of Seattle versus Jackson, not just for us as a viewer, but even for the other characters. Like, when Jesse's just breaking it down of like, yo, these people out here killing, lynching, murdering each other. This is not our war. I want to get the F out of here. I'm just like, yeah, man, I'm with you, big dog. This is very... Moments like that really sold me on the stakes and the messiness of the situation. So the world building of this season as a whole, I really enjoyed. Jackson, Seattle, the background stuff, things in the game that were reduced to just little footnotes and lore things are now actually, I'm thinking about Isaac blowing up the when Isaac throws
I
the
love that
grenade into,
moment.
yeah, but like in
And the
the
way
game,
that he throws the grenades into the back of the van,
doesn't give a damn.
Jeffrey
But
Wright, hell
yeah,
yeah,
and he voiced Isaac in the game too. He was his voice actor.
that's right.
But so he's bringing that same energy. But even for him, in the game, you find that truck afterwards, and you see the aftermath of all those dudes, and something happened with the military and Fedra and all that. It's nice to see the show took those and said, "Nah, man, we can flesh this out now because we have actual actors and not just notes because of the restrictions of the media." And they really ran with that. I think the biggest thing I had an issue with, I think I'm going to echo some of yours, is that I actually don't have an issue with Ellie and Dina's relationship. I just think that they, to your point, were making it move too quick. Because actually, for the most part, the relationship, I actually don't have any issues with it. I actually like Dina a lot because she is like a more well-adjusted Ellie of like, yo, she about that action too, but she's not a crash out. Like, I actually like the dynamic between those two. But to your point, like, we've seen this established at the very beginning of these two, and it hasn't been that long. So it's almost like in the movie where the two main characters fall in love and like, yo, the plot's only been like 2 hours. Y'all fell in love in 2 hours?
Yeah.
Like, I know we have to
only
hit our
just got
beats.
on the road with you.
I know we have to hit our beats for the sake of the story, but I think they should have slow burned it out a little more. And even just to your point, even just removing the "I'm gonna be a dad" line probably to me would have immediately alleviated that.
Oh yeah,
it's a budding
absolutely.
relationship. It's a budding relationship. It's going somewhere. They do rock with each other. These intense experiences can bring someone closer, but you gotta walk before you can run. They went full sprint when I'm like, yo, we need to at least be jogging a little bit, and that kind of took me out of it. But
I think that that full sprint nature, right, like, is about their relationship, which felt a little too much too soon, and also the fact that they are pursuing this rampage path through a war zone also felt rushed to me, right? Like, the season is only 7 episodes. They only go out on the road in episode 4. Like, 4, and 5, right? 6 is a total flashback episode. So really, you just have these 2 episodes of them coming into a war zone as just 2 individuals looking for a needle in a haystack. And that's this thing where the game, of course, the way games are built, like you do crazy stuff. Your protagonist is crazy. You have this crazy build. Ellie can handle all these weapons and take out hordes of people, and you don't question it because it's a game. And that's what you do in games.
You gotta fight hordes and hordes.
Yeah.
Even in the first game, right?
It's entertaining.
Like, Joel killing dozens and dozens. I'm like, so this man has killed dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of people, and he good. But
and then suddenly you take that into live action. You take that into live action, and you're like, okay, look at these, like two young women who, like, not the most intimidating. Maybe they're capable. But the show hasn't.
They're very capable, but it's like, to your point.
Yeah, the show hasn't shown us that they can actually that they can brush up against an entire war zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And do that capably. Like, they've shown that they can handle their own against, a few infected, a house full of infected. But that's very different from coming into a city that they don't know, and trying to work it out against 2 warring factions. And so a lot of what happens in those couple episodes just feels a little off. I think part of what happens in this show is that there's too much creeping disbelief that comes into play because of how fast they're moving. And I agree with you about the lore with the Seraphites and the wolves, which is super interesting. But again, it's like, I think we only have so much time here in 7 episodes. And so a lot of things feel like we're only getting a sketch of an idea, and we're forced to go with it as an audience rather than being, properly led along, so that we can experience it as the characters do and grow into the decisions that they're making.
Yeah, 7 episodes is way too little, especially for a story this incredibly
Yeah, they spent
dense.
it all on the battles, man.
Yeah, and it's just
they spent it all on the fight of Jackson.
Yeah, which the fight of Jackson was awesome, but I'm like, yo, man, we needed like an extra episode or 2 just to flesh out the things that, not even to cover more thread of the story, but just to flesh out the parts of the story that y'all have already covered. Now, some pushback I will give you, Brian. Some pushback is...
All right, give it to me.
I think that they did a good job of recognizing that sometimes video games have it easier to suspend your disbelief for things than movies do, right? Like, even the hospital scene at the end of season 1, I think people weren't a fan, because when you get down to it, it's hard to believe that Joel took out like 18 people single-handedly in a hospital. Crazy.
While holding a little girl.
Yeah, while sneaking. It's like, yo, in a video game, that's slight work. That ain't nothing. But in real life, you're like, yo, bro, regular dudes aren't just cannon fodder who drop at the, first sign of whatever. Like, yeah, in the game, Joel can get shot and brush it off because it's a video game. He can heal. He has health packs and stuff. So I think they recognize that they made things harder. What I will say is they were taking account for, I think, some suspension of disbelief, and they covered their trails, I think, fairly well, or at least they were thoughtful about it. The city's big. How do you find people? The wolves never have their radios off, and it makes sense that they talk very freely because their enemies literally are technologically inferior. That was, to me, a very valid understanding of, okay, you're right, this is a very big needle in a haystack search, but they have a name, they have intel, they're smart enough to be able to deduce patrol patterns and all that. I actually was glad that the show kind of was intentional of really showing that, so that we're a little more sold on how they're able to even get as much done as they can in an entire city at war. I think they also did a decent job of balancing out the fact that they are hopelessly outnumbered, because throughout this entire season, Ellie and Dina and really everybody have been kind of getting their ass kicked. It's not like they're coming into Seattle and they're thriving.
That's true.
Struggling. That's true. Pretty much.
They're hiding most of the time.
Most of the time they're hiding, licking their wounds, under duress or distress, got a plan that's not a great plan, and even when shit works out, other things happen that they couldn't have accounted for. And that's what I was saying before, of what I liked about it is the world building of this season has really sold me on how desperate everything is. Like, every episode, shit felt desperate. in a good way though, of like, oh, everyone is making rash, kind of not the best decisions, but look at what's happening around them. Yeah, I don't think anybody would make a good decision in this situation. And so the shitstorm that is Seattle is really what's been the high point of the season for me. Like, not any one particular character, but just knowing there's the war, you got multiple people out for revenge. It actually does kind of provide a decent cover for how Ellie and Dina can move around. They're still outnumbered, so between us, like, it's not like they went to Seattle and shit just was going all Gucci. Like, they've been to Seattle and Dina got shot in the leg. You know, Ellie got effed up and all in her back and she all hurt. We saw what happened at the end of the episode with Jesse. Like, let's not pretend that Seattle has been some just Cancun trip. They went to Seattle and everything went to shit. Everything went to shit as we knew it would. I think as everyone knew this would. But they've done a good job of showing that this shitstorm is very entertaining. And also, you get why it's happening. It's like, yeah, man. And you even see the moments where Ellie kind of... Well, I guess we'll go to the Ellie question. But overall, some of the relationship stuff, I think they rushed it along. But the world building for this season has been top tier for me, even despite it being a little shorter than I would have liked.
I would have loved more Isaac. And I think they're saving it. Isaac, they're obviously saving it, but I wish they just like, drip fed us a little bit more. I would have been so happy.
I know, man. I know, but that's why I'm really excited for the next season. We'll talk more. But any other specific standout moments from the season? I guess did you name any other ones or excuse me, performances, acting performances, anything?
Yeah, I mentioned my quibbles about the writing and the length of the season. But there's some real standout moments in this season overall. There's a lot of them. But I want to call out episode 6, which is purely a Joel and Ellie flashback episode. And
her last like 4 birthdays or something like that. Her last like 3 or 4 birthdays. It's every birthday over the time skip.
Maybe almost 5.
Yeah, it's like her 15. I'm literally talking about her 15th birthday, and then she's 19. It's several years.
That she's
birthdays.
Like smoking pot, hooking up birthday.
Yeah, I'm like, yo, she's trying to get it in. Why you hating, Joel? Man, you gotta do it big.
Why you cock blocking, Joel?
Yeah, especially
come
in the
on, man.
Like, come on, what you supposed to do? Go off
what
to
else are we supposed to do?
Dang.
Yeah. Jeez.
Well,
we're not getting ourselves killed,
right? Like we alive, shit.
So, like, I for those that have not played the game, yes, some of these things were actually part of the game, and I guess they mentioned that in like the behind the scenes thing after the episode. But we get the one. I think one of the most memorable moments of the game is the birthday in which they go to the museum and Joel puts her in the in the space capsule and helps Ellie live out her fantasy, being aboard a spaceship, right?
So beautiful.
Finds that tape with the audio from the actual rocket launch, and so that's a real standout moment. But I think that whole episode is right because not only do they take the elements from the game that these sort of defining moments in their characters' relationships, but they build it out even further, right? They have these other birthdays that were not part of the game, right?
The guitar,
so
that whole montage,
Joel
really
sanding down the guitar and etching the little moth on it. Joel getting the cake for Ellie. We mentioned Ellie getting caught in the act, trying to move out, and then we finally get the Eugene story, and we understand why there's so much tension around Eugene, because
a great thing they added, by the way,
because it evoked the lie that Ellie knows that Joel has been telling her all this time for years. She finally really comes to face with how much of a liar Joel can be, and admits to herself what she already knew, and seeing all of that fallout play out in an hour of TV was really heartbreaking, and for it to culminate in the porch scene, which does happen in the game, but not till the very end.
Yeah,
close to the end.
Big pacing difference.
It's an interesting choice that they decided to divulge this final conversation between the two before Joel gets snuffed out. at this point in the storyline. But just the way that it's carried out between Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey, like, wow, that moment is just so incredibly emotional and nuanced, and is, to me, represents the reason why you want to adapt masterpiece video games into a new format, just so that you can redo those scenes with the best of the best actors possible, and really have it play out in a way that you just can't capture in a video game yet. And to me, that moment is, it's like gut wrenching, heart wrenching, tear jerking, all of that stuff, and was a reminder of how good The Last of Us as a TV show can be.
No, absolutely. And then, the cherry on top is that we talk about how the show, again, takes advantage of the media to add in scenes that don't translate well to video games. Things that normally are some world building note that you read can be scenes, like the grenade truck scene, right? We've talked about that. But the icing on the cake to all of that is even them adding in the scene to Joel's childhood. And we get to see a young Joel, and we get to see how he was in his formative years. And we even,
I hope you do better than me, son.
He said just a little
bit better.
He said a little bit better. But then, I love that, because one of the themes of the entire, I think less so season 1, definitely season 2, is the cycle of violence and revenge, right, and what it means for you, and what does it mean for you when you have people who rely on you, right? Like, a big theme is consistently parents and people having something else to fight for or live for that's bigger than them. And how does that motivate your actions and what you do, right? That's a consistent theme throughout the series, is your loved ones and all that. And then the icing on
looking
the cake,
at you, Jesse.
Right? But then the icing on the cake is that we get the scene of Joel having this abusive dad who clearly was trying to not be awful, but he couldn't, he was abused. So cycle of just, it's so weird to just see the cycle of abuse and see how, so this is what happened with Joel's dad. So this explains some of Joel's, how he is and his dynamic with him and his brother. This is him trying to do a little bit better. And you get a little bit more understanding of his passion for Ellie and how the things he did might be considered awful, but when you recognize where he's coming from, that was his do a little bit better. But to your point, it makes the gut punch of their final conversation hit home that much harder, because he straight up parrots the words from his dad of, like, I love you, I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah,
and
I would do it again.
I do it, and then he just threw in that little line. I hope if you have one and you decide that's what you want, I hope you know what I mean and you can do a little bit better. And I was like, yo, man, this is the perfect blend of what the game already gave us that was amazing, and then just saying, all right, bet, we can improve it. And it was so sad, it was so emotional, it hurt, because you just know when she's like, yo, I don't know if I can forgive you, but I want to try. And it's like, yo, that's the real human shit. And then you flash back to the present of just all this awful shit happening again. I'm like, yo, man, that whiplash is real, but this is really good storytelling, and these are the things that, video games just can't always do in the same way. It's interesting to see the show fumble some things that work best in video games and then elevate things that work better in a show than a game. But either way, the intention is there, and I really do have a lot of respect for the people in the show of, like, whether you agree with something or not, that they're genuinely putting in their best effort, and, like, it's thoughtful. So that's been great.
What do you think about them moving that porch conversation to this point in the storyline?
I think it was
opposed to the end.
I think it's a good pacing moment, because as we talked about, the story of The Last of Us 2 Part 2, or Last of Us Part 2, it's a lot is happening, and it's different to be able to appreciate that story in a contained video game versus a TV production that's going to span over several years. You have to hit certain beats in the story, I think, timing wise, in a way that you don't have to worry about in video games. In a video game, somebody's going to be able to finish the entirety of the story in a week, 2 weeks. If you play slow, maybe a month, but, like, the timeline to experience that story. Yeah. But even if you play slow, the timeline to experience the story is much more condensed. For a show, no matter what you do, you have to wait years between shit happening, and that can result in either losing steam, and it's just a pacing storytelling element of, hey, you need to be able to give people XYZ at this finale, because it's going to be 2 years of dead air where people are waiting and you need to actually have answered some questions so that they don't lose interest waiting for you to, give you more show. So while I do like how they did it in the original story of that being the gut punch at the end, I'm not trying to wait 4 years for the end of whatever the series is going to be to get that, when you could give it to us now, have its emotional weight still hit, and then still tell the story they want to tell cumulatively without not giving you something along the way. But I think for a show like this, you got to give the watchers some amounts of payoff. Otherwise, it's just too long of a story and it's just too much shit that just wouldn't be happening. But that's why I think they had to end it with, like Ellie. Like, okay, we're not going to get the full Ellie revenge, but we had to end the shit with Ellie killing, like at least end killing more of her crew, because we're just going to be sitting there like, all right, next season, we're waiting for Ellie to finally go crazy. It's like, no, we're here.
Yeah.
But I think pacing purposes, they had to do that. Could you imagine if we were waiting years for that? Because then people are going to say, oh, what's the payoff? Nothing's happening.
She was mad at him anyway. Why is she killing these people?
At this point, it's been years, so people had time to set, their opinions get more settled in and set in stone. Because if people had 2 years to talk about this thing in the finale, it's less likely that whatever happens after is going to suddenly shift those opinions when they've had time to crystallize, be talked about. No, it was the right call, and it was a good use of Pedro Pascal's character, who we know he dies at the start. They need to find ways to inject him into the story to, one, explain Ellie's grief, but also Pedro Pascal. Like, he's a great actor, and the Joel character is great. Like, we knew we were going to be getting posthumous scenes with him. I think they needed to give us something like this in this season. Otherwise,
he's going to be too busy filming like the third Fantastic Four movie.
And
the eighth Avengers movie.
People just lose interest. Like, the echoes of his character still need to be, like, his influence on the story is still greatly there. He's the motivation behind all the shit that's happening. So, like, just because he's dead doesn't mean that he can't still be an active character. And the flashbacks did great. And they expanded on the flashbacks. Like, the Eugene thing was such a great addition. I was like, oh, cool.
I love that they actually have Eugene.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh,
we
cool.
actually got to see him. Shout out to Joe Pantoliano, who I think is the actor from The Matrix. You remember that guy from The Matrix?
Oh,
He's
shit.
the one
that Cypher?
He wants to get put back into the Matrix.
Was Cypher?
Like, I want to be rich.
I like the steak. I know the steak is fake. I don't care. I like the steak.
I like steak.
Crazy.
So what about you? What was the standout moment, performance, character, whatever?
For me, I mean, I could talk about specific character moments and all that, but I really want to. I mean, we talked about, was it Jeffrey Wright? Jeffrey Wright.
Isaac.
The acting's been great, but for me, it's just Seattle as a whole. I am so sold on.
You're trying to move to Seattle now?
God, no. Not this version of Seattle. But they have really sold me on just it being a shit show. The constant rain, the gloomy demeanor, the Amish, the Amish nature cult, which even that little Amish thing, I was like, oh, this actually does kind of.
I like that explanation of the Seraphite.
Yeah, because
that worked.
That was a great. Because even in the game, I was like, huh, I get it. Cults are real. I can't pretend like, oh, a cult. How could that possibly happen? But the show did a good job of like, hey man, the Amish could you like? This isn't as far of a stretch of disbelief as you could think. But yeah, Seattle, the brutality, the rain, everything being destroyed. The fact that these two groups are just being so egregiously awful to each other that it's like, dude, I don't even know where to start. Like, that sense of just the entire sense of just dread that this place brings on, knowing that they're also trying to go on this revenge mission. Like, the atmosphere just really stood out to me. And, like, I was really, really drawn in of that element of the show. And it was elevated by the acting. Because I think all the acting in general, I haven't had any real acting complaints. Like, my only real complaint was maybe that one couple line of dialogue between Ellie and Dina. But other than that, I thought everybody's been great actors. The guy who plays Jesse's been really good of just playing that stoic, caring.
Yeah, shout out to Jesse, my favorite character.
Yeah, like sometimes that character archetype can feel a little boring, but I like his very good blend of competence, emotional like stability, and trying to actually do the right thing in a world where everyone fucking sucks.
Yeah, he's kind of like he is a nice counterpoint to Ellie in that he too like grew up in this post-apocalyptic world, but has a completely different worldview as her. He was sort of what they were trying to mold Ellie to be back in Boston when she was at the federal school.
Yeah, 100%.
And so but he's coming out of Jackson. He actually embraces that responsibility. He embraces that responsibility and understands
begrudgingly
why it's important. Yeah, begrudgingly, but I think it's based on real emotional attachments.
Oh no, 100%. That's why it's so dope. It's I like the begrudging is meant to like enforce why it's such a good thing how they do it. Of like, yo, he really is about that big picture. Like he really is the kind of
we
character.
depend on each other. That's it.
And we've seen a theme in this show is the importance of leaders, right? We've talked about Joel having to step up to be a leader in Jackson when he's kind of always wanted to do his own lone wolf shit. I mean, that was his whole arc in season 1, right? Ellie's entire arc of wanting to be alone and not relying on people. You know, everything going on with Fedra, the wolves. Like, there's a consistent theme of leaders and what are good leaders and how can you lead the people who will follow you through hell. And it's like, will you be an Isaac who maybe isn't the type of leader you want to aspire? But then he's also hyping up Abby, so maybe we're going to see more about what leadership is for her and her character. And actually, we did see Abby as a leader, right? We saw her kick off this entire story, and her leadership is leading to this entire shit show. Like,
she was kind of like the Tibbs in that locker room, though. Like, a lot of her players were a little skeptical.
Yeah, but I think that's a cool theme in this season is leadership and what is your duty to the folks around you, and what does supporting them look like? What does protecting them from themselves look like? And we see a lot of different manifestations of that. And then, with of course Jesse being he recognizes, yo, they grooming me to be the next leader of this, and he takes on that responsibility, which of course makes the end of episode 7 that much effing worse. But these are the emotional gut punches.
I did love that. Splitting with the game, they actually developed Jesse's character way more, right? He has these tense conversations with Ellie in episode 7 that give so much light to his character. He's like, I voted against you, Ellie. Like, you did not have my vote. I knew that was not good for Jackson. And then he explains why he's the way he is. And I loved hearing that story about his lost love, right? He knows it's not Dina. There's some other baddie out there that he was gonna follow across country with, but realized that there are people that depended on him. But and then at the same time, right before he gets shot in the face, it says to Ellie, I did come back for you. Like I would come back for you because you are one of my people, and
you're my friend.
This is what I do for my people.
Yeah.
So I really rock with Jesse. Love that dude. Sorry we had to see you go.
Yep, but again, when you're playing, when you're playing this game of revenge and blood, this is how it happens, and
they were setting us up for that.
Yeah,
they're
he said, "I don't want to die.
We gotta make this hurt."
He said, "I gotta get the F out of Seattle to be home with my kid. Get the F out of because he was so over Ellie shit." And then the wildest part is that, keep in mind, they were about to leave, and then Ellie saw the Ferris wheel and then just immediately crashed out again and was just like, oh, cool, so you've lost the plot again.
She turned into my dog, man. Like, she got distracted by the chew toy and went after it. And like, your food is right here. You gotta eat your food.
I'm like, oh my God, we were so close to going inside. But so let's talk a little bit about the Ellie arc. We talk about her arc of vengeance, hate. How have you been enjoying, like, how have you felt about Ellie's character in terms of her really taking the center stage and being motivated the way she is?
I mean, there's a hard question for me because I'm such a fan of the game, and Ellie, I've always been a ride or die Ellie fan. I love in game 2 that we just got to play as Ellie. That was the greatest thing to me. And so I'm immediately on board for Ellie in this season. I knew that she was going to be the protagonist. I knew that she was going to go on this journey of revenge. And I think watching it play out in the season, I'm rooting for her for the whole way through. I think one little nitpick I have with how it plays out in the season is that, she's not as much of a badass as she is in the game. Right, she's sort of like figuring things out a little bit more on the fly here, and seems a lot more vulnerable in the TV show. And they kind of make it seem like, oh yeah, she really needs Dina because Ellie can't figure shit out for herself, right? Like you kind of don't get that quality from her in the game. But all of that is to say, you know, I like how Bella Ramsey has played it. I like that there's like this other sadness that comes through a lot more in the TV show, right? Like all this self-doubt that creeps in way sooner in the TV show because it has to, right? Like you can't have Ellie, this 19-year-old, torture Nora in a spore infested dark hallway of a hospital uh without having that come into these actors, right? Without having Ellie, who we saw as a young, as a young teen, grow into this person. And so now we see her kind of wrestle with what exactly she's doing. And then same again when when she kills Mel and Mel asks her to cut out her baby to save it. So, having those moments and seeing Ellie being confronted with what her revenge tour is doing to people and what it's doing to herself, I think actually works. Is a nice touch, is a nice addition to how we're seeing her arc play out. And I think it makes it. I think the gut punch of Jesse getting killed and her coming face to face with the target of her revenge, Abby, at the very end of episode 7, I think that moment suddenly gets way worse, right? Because we know where Ellie is at, right? She's kind of ready to pack it up.
She's not. Yeah.
She realized she has gone too far.
Yeah, because to your point, this is also the acting of like. Well, do you mind if I give a little bit of my take?
Do it.
Yeah, so look,
that's what we're here for.
I'm with you, bro. Like the Ellie revenge arc was really good, and so look, going back to the whole video game adaptation piece thing, this is where I think it worked well. The biggest issue most video games have is that your character is the protagonist, and they just have infinite badass points they can shrug off, and they can literally get shot. But because it's a video game, there's no lasting effects. And
yeah, I got some pills that I found in a drawer, and I'm good.
Oh, I took the pill. Video game logic that sometimes just makes
even those pills are like 20 years old.
There's a little bit of a strain between the video game logic and the very grounded nature of this show and the push and pull between it, right? But Ellie, like, how do I word this? Because Ellie doesn't just get to be the badass that we get to control in the video game, to your point, doing combat roles, hitting all your shots, right? Like, in a video game, you can be good at the game in a room full of monsters and just be John Wick. Bow, 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 because it's a video game.
Those are my favorite YouTube videos, by the way. Ellie in aggressive gameplay, no damage.
Yeah, I'm saying, you're not going to get aggressive gameplay Ellie in the show. It just doesn't work, right? But it does make the revenge part, I think, click a little better because it makes the outnumbered nature and the odds feel good. In the game, it's just a matter of how many people are you willing to go through and kill to do the thing. In the show, that's not on the table because it narratively doesn't work that way. So Ellie feels less badass, feels less powerful. You have these character moments with actors, so she gets to explore her self-doubt more, and the self-doubt makes sense because it's not like in the game, she's doubting herself while in the cutscenes, while in the game, I'm, John Woo in this thing acting a fool. Like, no, this adds up to what we're seeing her character act out just because of the power scaling of the show, and how they have to balance out the character. She's a badass, but like, you're up against a military, like a whole militia force. I don't care how badass you are, you're out of your element.
True.
But I think that makes the revenge part feel that much better because you know how out of her depth she is and up against impossible odds. In like a way that's also like, yo, you're a dumbass. Like in a good, like in a both way, like in a very, it makes the vengeance feel human because it's dumb. It's not very well thought out. It's all emotionally driven and she's figuring it out. And when she's there, she doesn't quite know what she wants to do besides kill him and she's winging it. But I'm like, yo, that's what revenge and grief can be like. It's messy, it's sloppy, you're emotionally all over the place. We got some scenes where Ellie's breaking down crying over Joel, other scenes where she's silent and angry, and it's like, that's kind of how grief is. Like, you feel the full spectrum. Some days you mad as hell, some days you sad, you cry, some days you want to punch something, some days you want to hug somebody. And like, I do feel like in this season we've gotten a very wide range of Ellie's grief and what it looks like and how it showed up. And I've really enjoyed it, and I thought it's been very well acted. It's not just anger. It's not just sad. It's all that shit. It's regret. It's what happens when other people are, who weren't the target end up getting killed too. And now, to your point, it's complicated. And I like that they are selling the fact that Ellie is damaging herself on this crusade more so than I think the game did. The game made it feel more like a badass. The show makes it feel more like you're throwing your life away. And that's in a good way. Like, it drives home the theme of vengeance being dumb and like, we're all gonna lose. If this is how we're gonna behave, everybody's gonna be holding a fat L before this is all said and done.
My issue though is that the show keeps saying like, yo, this is dumb. Like, you're getting into some really hot water, and they don't show enough of Ellie let the dumbness subside and let the grief and the rage take over. Like, and so there's a specific moment that I'm thinking about.
Okay.
She, in the last episode, in a terrible storm on the water, she gets in a dinghy going against the current. A giant, like, 20-foot, 100-foot wave, whatever, wipes her out, sends her to Seraphite Island, where she is then, like, strung up. A child says, like, disembowel her, like some, like, 7-year-old gives her the Caesar's thumbs down, have her disemboweled. She's saved by the bell because they're called away for, Isaac's onslaught of Seraphite Island. And then Ellie proceeds to get back in a dinghy and travel in the darkness. Absolute darkness, by the way. Also, don't know how Ellie knows how to use a dinghy. To continue on her pursuit to, the Ferris wheel aquarium situation. And while you were talking, it just made me think, like, man, we just needed a moment somewhere in there or other points of her being in Seattle where we see her questioning and we see her pain, right? We see her pain, or like she channels that, like, that talk with Joel, like, I was going to try to forgive him. They took that away from me. Now what? To channel that kind of rage and frustration to then give her the resolve to move beyond the dumbness. Because her almost dying on Seraphite Island and then getting back in a boat in a torrential rainstorm in the absolute darkness to a destination that she knows nothing about just, like, reeks of stupidity. And you're like, what the hell, man?
This is my thing. I thought it was dumb too. But, like, okay, here's my question. Did you think it was dumb from a writing top-down perspective or dumb from an Ellie character perspective? Because I think those are two different things. Because when Ellie does dumb things... I
am conflating the two. I am saying the writers did a bad job of communicating why she would go through those lengths. And then, but yeah, Ellie as a character, especially in this grounded live-action TV show, it's kind of like, what are you doing here? We also know you're kind of underpowered, like, what are you doing here? Dolo trying to go there.
Yeah, see, to me, I was frustrated with that too, but I saw it as like, this is the kind of shit that Ellie would do. Like, in my mind, it was stupid, but Ellie has been doing stupid stuff since season 1 of this series. Like, one of her defining character traits, if there was ever a trait you had to boil down, okay, if we had to describe Ellie in one word, what would it be? Headstrong would be the word. Impulsive would probably be one of the words. Like, I don't think they needed to, I don't think they needed to have her wash up on the island and do all that stuff. But I think it is absolutely in character for her to do some dumb shit like that, because that's what she's been doing this entire season. And she's only alive because she has people around her who care. And they, in universe, point that out multiple times. Jesse literally said, if I had gone off with that girl and you went off to Seattle, who would have saved you? Dina is the one literally making a plan, charting out the stuff, basically in nice words saying, Ellie, you don't have a strategic mind. When the kid Seraphite is getting dragged off by the wolves, Ellie wants to jump in and help, and Jesse's like, no, dude, it's 2 against 6. we'll die if we do that. Like, all those moments are all super frustrating, but they are 100% in character with just Ellie. In the first episode, they went into that patrol. They ignored their group leaders and said, "Yeah, f that. We're gonna go into this building anyway." And then almost, she got bit.
And she almost died.
She got bit.
Yeah,
like she's gotten bit several times just because she's a dumb. Like, I think I wasn't crazy about it from a writing perspective, but one of my favorite things about Ellie this season is that she's just more of a dumbass than ever, and the show is driving home, Ellie, you are only alive because you have friends who are looking out for you. Otherwise,
I like that
you would
take.
have died ages ago. Like, and mainly, and I'm mainly saying because the characters themselves are pointing it out. Like, this is an in-universe Ellie. Even in the conversation Jesse and Ellie have, Jesse straight up calls out Ellie for being selfish because when she does shit, she does it for herself. She doesn't do it without thinking. She doesn't really think about the ramifications of her actions. And even with that kid, she tries to flip it on Jesse, saying, "Oh, you let a kid die," but like, she's like, "Oh, you let a kid die," but it's like, dude, if we had did what you did, we would have all died. So, writing wise, I wasn't crazy about the boat scene, but Ellie has multiple documented instances of just doing the most crash out, dumbest thing possible. And as annoying as it is, I'm glad that they've stuck with that consistent character trait because it makes sense when in this rage that she's on. Granted, several times she does try to chicken out, but it's like, yeah, man, you came to play big dog games, you get big dog prizes. Like, you can't go around killing people in Seattle and then decide, oh, I killed the wrong person, now I feel bad. Like, nah, pimp, you in the spaghetti, nah. But again, this is your impulsiveness.
She's a meatball.
Yeah, but again, that's her impulsiveness at play, and like that is a defining. I just don't like to conflate bad writing with characters just pissing us off.
So, can you? I like it. I like that take because I wasn't thinking that way, and part of me saying that I'm so into the game version of Ellie. I think there's that misalignment in my mind about who I think Ellie is versus
You're more
who the show has shown Ellie is, right? So, can you tell us, like, what is the writing issue for this?
For me, the writing.
Can y'all hear me?
Okay, what's up, Wes? We have a.
Who is that?
You're not here. This is us doing our pod. Wrong.
Yeah, you weren't invited to this.
Interlopers.
I crashed it. I can't stay long. I actually just wanted to pop in. I was like, oh, maybe they're still on. I'm on West Coast time, so it's still really early over here. But I wanted to get my 2 cents in. Can I just give 2 cents? I have no idea what you guys have said. It sounds like you're talking about how Ellie is kind of a mixed bag in terms of whether we like her or not.
We're talking about how she went forward after she landed on Seraphite Island and almost died and still went back in the boat to the aquarium. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you guys watched the after, making of specials and the.
I didn't.
You didn't? Okay, so Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann, they both talk about that a little bit and how they got a chance to explore Seraphite Island, that early on, just quick introduction, and they're talking about how all of these signs are pointing to all of these signs are telling Ellie, like, this is not the way, and yet she's so consumed by her need for vengeance that she still goes anyways, right? And that's just sort of how her character has been developing this year in light of her grief. And I don't know, I mean, I buy that, and I get that other people, I think my friend Albert was like, I just don't get why she would keep going. Like, at some point you got to call it quits. And it's like, that's not how Ellie's built. Like, Ellie is like, I'm going to go to the ends of the earth. Jesse calls her out and says, like, you would light the world on fire to save me. Like, that's sort of, that is how she's been portrayed.
That's who she is. That's how she gets.
Exactly, right? And so, yeah, and there is that, like, juxtaposition against the fact that she wanted to sacrifice herself to survive, to bring a cure for all of humanity. And yet here she is, like, not throwing her life away, but, sort of revenge quest.
We can say throwing her life away.
Okay.
She almost died like 4 or 5 different times.
Yeah.
And was either bailed out by her friends or just divine intervention.
I mean, she definitely does have a death wish.
Yeah.
And that is true to the game.
She's on a negative spiral for sure, right? Because she's lost her anchor. She's she finally allowed herself to rely on somebody, and then that person was taken away from her. And
it had unresolved, and it had all the unresolved shit too. Like, that's the other thing too,
right?
Like,
she never got a chance to make, quote, make it right?
That's how you know Joel's gonna come back as a ghost. He has unresolved business.
A force ghost.
Okay. I just wanted to say before I hop back out of here and went back to parenting, that there's been a lot of criticism online, I feel like, of the show and of the game and of Ellie in particular and of Bella Ramsey in particular. And like, I don't know. I can't get down with all of that. Like, I've really enjoyed the show from start to finish. I didn't really like, there were enough tense moments, enough zombies for me, enough like all that. Everyone's like, it's a zombie show and there weren't any zombies in the last 3 episodes. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I guess that's a criticism, but it's also got more to go. It also becomes less about the zombies.
It's never been about the zombies.
Right. But it also starts to become like, next season, it's going to become more about like getting through like the Seraphites and the wolves and things like that. And so I'm just kind of baffled by the level of hate that the show is getting, even though it very much mirrors the hate that the game got when like they shifted the point of view away from Ellie and towards Abby and stuff like that. It's just like, as soon as Joel died, everyone lost their like ability to process the show and was just so, I think they were so sad about Joel's death that they couldn't forgive the game for taking that away from them. And like, what a testament to how well they built up Joel. What an interesting, like...
That's weirdos online who think Joel they real daddy or something. All right?
Yeah.
I didn't have lots of characters I like die. And you know what I did? I was like, dang,
yeah.
they killed your boy. And you know what? I moved on. You think I wasn't mad when they killed Mace Windu? You know what I said? Damn. They killed Mace Windu. And then I kept watching the effing movie.
I'll see him in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, but I'm sure that people connected so deeply with Joel in the first game that they just couldn't see past that, and that's craziness to me. But if people are able to like not let it go, but to like continue to explore and invest in other characters, then there's so much like richness in the game and in the show that I just feel sad that all these people are just so like taken aback by Joel's death that they can't even get over it, and they've like written off the show, and they're like, oh, as soon as Pedro Pascal left, I'm not going to watch the show, or as soon as Joel died, I'm not going to watch the show.
Yeah, Wes, those people are weirdos.
I don't think they're weird because, well, some of them are
emotionally impacted by a fictional character in a game that you can no longer engage with the spin-off live action series to the point where it affects how you actually treat real people. You are an effing weirdo.
Well, just to play devil's advocate.
I would say that
that's weirdo behavior.
Yeah, but it's not limited to like 5% of watchers.
Well,
that's too far. Yeah, that's too far.
To play devil's advocate, when Game of Thrones final season, characters start acting crazy, Daenerys looking at you, people didn't like it, right? And they're like, oh, why is the hero doing this? And I would actually argue sometimes it's not because their beloved character did something that the audience didn't appreciate. Sometimes it's because where it comes from feels out of left field, and it feels like the writers did a disservice to where the character was heading.
Yeah, but I don't think that was the case here. I don't think that was the case
here. Yeah. I'm not saying it is, but I do think that can be an issue for audiences, right? Where they start to believe
Lannister,
that.
Yeah, if you're Jaime Lannister, maybe in terms of your story getting butchered. But Joel wasn't Jaime. Joel, everything about Joel, like, this week, we knew at the end of the first game, like, oh, yeah, they ain't going to just take that line down.
I'm just going to say, I think the show has done a great job. I enjoyed it. I did not have any of the, like, feedback that I saw online on Instagram comments. I was like, I just don't get it. Like, you're just mad about, like, these things that it's not that they don't matter. Like you can have your opinion, but so many people have this opinion. I'm like, I don't know if like we're watching the same show. Like, are you actually watching the show, or are you just angry because Joel died? Like, and that's fine. You can be angry that Joel died, but like, that's how the story goes. That's how it went in the game. Like, it was a big piece, and I don't know. Like, the fact that Ellie is on her revenge tour is like, that is also true to the game, and I'm okay with that. And it like makes sense that like her one anchor got taken away, and now she's just feeling completely lost and has lost herself. And that's what the show is about, that like this deep love you have for people can sometimes throw you over the edge. And I don't know, I think it's a great like deep dive into like what happens if it goes to this extreme and in this like pressure cooker environment. And that what I hate about it is like she in the game
Hey,
to go back.
Spoiler
Hey,
territory.
Damn.
Whoa, we're not there
Damn,
yet,
what
bro.
the hell, Wes? Damn. I'm telling Wes. All right, so we can just cut that part out.
All right, I'll cut it out. But
We're cutting out Wes's entire cameo
Dang,
here.
we
No
had
way.
a whole show planned, and Wes just came in, started dropping spoilers, and this baby.
all right, I won't spoil it.
She gotta take a dookie doo and.
All right, I'll
Russ
cut
got
that
his
out. Here.
And Russ got his grandpa glasses on. He got his readers with the Bible.
How do I?
We're just kidding, Wes. Finish your point.
Yeah.
Finish your point.
Cut out the spoiler though.
I'll cut out the spoiler. Okay.
Yeah, you were
The
saying?
show to me has just like done a really good job like investing us in characters, showing us how far we can like go away from kindness, from goodness, even when we're like loving our people, our tribe, our whatever. And like the fact that people are upset about it is like, to me, that's almost like a testament to how like invested everybody became and like how good the writing actually has been in the show. And I don't think the show has like been perfect, but all of the criticism from like keyboard warriors that I've seen online, I've just like been so annoyed by it because I'm like, you're watching the show from the perspective of like, I get to determine where the story goes and I know this character better than anybody else. But like, to me, they've shown all of these things in Ellie's character throughout the whole thing. It hasn't been out of left field, like Brian said. It's been like established that Ellie is a little bit crazy. Ellie is a little bit like filled with vengeance, and Ellie is prone to like doing hot-headed things, and like she's, you know, that's who she is.
Lord. She is the Salt Lord.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I've just been invested in the show. I can't wait for season 3. I know some people I saw that like the ratings for the last episode wasn't as good compared to the finale of season 1. So I don't know. I hope HBO actually doesn't meddle and start telling them they need to change things and make it nicer and more happy ending stuff, because that's just not what this show is. So I'm hoping the suits don't get involved, seeing like those numbers go down. Like, just make the show you want to make, and like, it's, I don't know, to me it's been a great show, and I'm interested to see, because supposedly next year is supposed to focus more on Abby, or next season.
I mean, the way they definitely set it up, which,
yeah,
I mean, yeah,
and I want to see that, right? Because I hated that in the game from a like investment perspective, but loved how they actually built the story.
Yeah,
you know.
Well,
all right, friends, I gotta go.
As far as the discourse is concerned, though, Wes, like, people are paid to create rage bait content that involves poo-pooing on everything.
Maybe that's true. Yeah.
I mean, that's not maybe. It is true. And the reality is that there are a bunch of YouTubers and dudes who make video essays about children's movies who are going to say all kinds of bad face stuff about the show because it gets engagement, it gets clicks, negativity sells.
Yeah, for sure.
If your bills got paid by making YouTube videos saying Bella Ramsey is ugly, and that's how you kept your lights on, you made good bread, there's people who are just like, all right,
yeah,
I'm going to say bad faith critiques and parrot stuff because
that stuff's been really awful. That all that stuff about Bella's looks has been awful.
Oh, yeah, but but my point is that it's bad faith. It's a part of the grift, and people have realized that you can get
like Kendall sent us a meme about it, right?
Did he? I don't know.
I think he sent us like a reel about it. Like, yeah. Anyways, all right. Enjoy your conversation. I can't wait to listen to it on the post recording, and then I'll put it out. The Last of Us is so good. Okay, bye.
Later, Wes. I also think a big thing that audiences can't accept is that a show or a movie or a story, whatever, runs against their own confirmation bias, right? And like the people's bias is that they want stories that conform to what they expect because that is comforting, right?
Yeah,
that feels good. That's satisfying.
This is not a comforting show. This is not a comforting story.
This show is deliberately trying to undermine narrative, the hero's journey that you would expect. They're doing that very deliberately, so of course that's going to rub people the wrong way, who are looking for something else. They're looking for something to snack on rather than something to mull over, which is what this show is.
But in that case, that's, again, to your point, that's not an issue with the show. That's just
I don't
watch a
that's
horror
your
movie.
problem, audience.
Yeah, I don't watch a horror movie and then be upset that it was scary. I don't watch a Marvel movie and be upset that it wasn't realistic. Like, hey, I don't watch an animated movie and say, "Oh man, we're the real life people." This is just some of this is like, "Hey, we just got to recognize the the genre
Yeah,
and type of
you
story.
got to know what this is.
And just because it's not the kind of story you like, that doesn't mean that it is a bad story. Those are two very different things. Same with anything, right? I think anything with any media, distinguishing something you not liking being different from something being objectively bad. Ellie was a dumbass for the boat scene. I think that's pretty true. Now, how you feel about it writing wise is up for debate, but like I do think there is a difference. But I want to talk a little bit. So I have a couple last questions before we start to wrap up. The showrunners, we've seen the changes that they've made with the show. Do you think going forward they're going to continue to kind of stay more true to what the game gave us in the original story? There are changes. What do you think is going to be the balance between those changes and not changes, and how you felt about them?
I think they are walking a fine line, and I empathize with them. This is a hard thing to do, right? Like, super popular game that was already really contentious with the fans online, and then adapting it for TV, having new fans come into the fold, and then just trying to find the right mix between pleasing people versus doing something interesting creatively. I mean, for me, I just want them to act as if the source material didn't matter that much. To me, I think the show works best when it's not trying to mimic all the things that happen in the game and all the storylines or whatever. Like, the changes, as somebody who played the game, the changes are the things that I really perk up for.
Yeah,
the
who wants a 1-to-1? Like, who just
the
wants
meeting
exactly,
exactly, right? Like, I'll just play the game, right? For the people that are really upset about the show because they love the game and it feels different, like, just play the game. That's fine.
They've remastered it like twice.
The game is great and gorgeous. The stuff that I'm here for is like the scene in Jackson where they have a community meeting and a public vote as to whether or not they should pursue Joel's killers, right? Like, when you hear all those arguments laid out from different people in the community,
including Seth,
from Seth of all people, who's like, no, they can't get away with this. I believe in some sort of moral, some sort of reckoning has to happen, right? Versus other people who are like, yo, how are we going to get dragged down into this kind of beef? We have to rebuild here, right? Like, all of those kind of things.
And the rebuilding change, right? Because now it lands really different, because in the game, Jackson had like an attack, but it wasn't.
It didn't force them to rebuild.
Yeah, so now like the stakes are very different. Of like, yo, this isn't as simple as get revenge. We actually have competing priorities.
Yeah, and then
we talked about Tommy too.
Correlated with that, with Jesse, right? Jesse, like, having a moment where he's on the council. He's supposed to be in Ellie's court. He admits to her that he voted in the other direction. Stuff like that, I think, really
Joel at therapy
increases the value of these characters and their relationships, right? Yeah, Joel in therapy, incredible stuff, man. He can't admit it to himself of what he did. Like, he's trying so hard and clinging to an idea about himself. Like, I love all of that, right? All of that, to me, is what makes this show sing, right? Like, season 1, everyone talks about, I think it was episode 3, with the couple, we get to see their entire relationship play out until their deaths. Stuff like that. Stuff like that really is what makes the show a standout. And I would love if they continue to do more of that. Give me more Isaac. Give me more Sarah fights. Give me more of these scenes of Abby, just being Abby, doing other things that the game was never able to explore. And I think if they do that more so than give us a rehash of a subway fight that,
it's funner to play than it is to watch.
Yeah, than it is. Right, because we've seen this happen before in plenty of zombie movies. Like, it's totally unnecessary. Give us these character moments, and I think season 3, potentially season 4, will be all the better for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Changes I liked. I think them adding the smart ones have been a really good change. Like the smarter stalkers that.
Well, the stalkers exist in the game.
No, the smarter ones.
Yeah. There is a new kind of infected and they kind of hide.
I don't think I inferred that they were considering them smarter, but good call.
I guess maybe they don't call them smarter.
Yeah,
they're just like
they're
a
just
new
different.
type that's
fair,
out there.
Fair.
Yeah.
But the stalker scenes I thought were great. Just them popping out and like, oh boy, this is a different type of, them leaning away from the airborne spores and the pipes thing, and like the whole it's all connected underground was like some cool changes. And I talked about this in the pre-show. I like the smaller changes, but I like that they're not afraid to take a big swing on certain changes if they feel like it's necessary. And now that I can look back at this season, I think the best game to show change is the motivation of them going off to Seattle in the first place. For people who haven't played the game, in the game, it's Joel and Tommy who get captured by Abby and her crew, and Tommy is there when Joel gets killed. Abby and Dina aren't. Dina isn't there. They changed that.
Right.
So in the game, Tommy was there and witnessed his brother get tortured and killed in front of him. And so when you're back in the Jackson attack never happened, right? So in the game, Tommy is like, yo, they killed my brother, F that. And Jackson hasn't been attacked and raised and messed up. So there's not exactly we need to stay and rebuild. And the kickoff of Last of Us 2 in the game is that Tommy goes off to Seattle first. He's the one who found out about the wolves because he was there and starts hunting them down. And the game actually kicks off kind of with Ellie and Dina being sent by Tommy's wife to go retrieve him so that he can not crash out and throw his life away. And then Jesse follows up with them later to help support. And then the story kind of goes the way it did. But I thought changing it, that was a very noticeable change, right? That's a very big change in terms of character. That changes Tommy's entire character, like motivation of he actually is focused more on his family and the people he cares for, which contrasts to the whole bit, right? About people choosing between the people who need them and maybe what their own immediate desires are, right? Like I think that bit with Tommy adds to that. But I thought it was a really good decision to have it be that Ellie's the one who's so distraught. She takes off. It makes more sense with her being the impulsive, angry person that she is and her taking and handling the death poorly.
Yeah.
It makes more sense for Tommy because he does have a wife and child and a leadership role and responsibility. So him actually getting angry and charging off, I actually think in hindsight would have probably not made a lot of sense. Or I think I would have been less receptive to that of, he's so angry he left behind them and all that. So that was a very big change.
Because we never saw the relationship between the two brothers.
Yeah, exactly. And we see bits and pieces of it, but
not enough for him to just disappear.
Exactly.
Right.
And either way, they're building up Tommy to be a voice of reason in this scenario, not so. In the game, I think it's more of he's meant to be almost a cautionary tale to Ellie of like, hey man, look what he going off and doing, and we'll see how it plays out for him. In the show, it felt like they flipped it of Tommy's trying to handle his responsibilities, but he's stepping back in because he wants to support you, Ellie, because you effing up. And they even planted that seed early on when Tommy's talking to the therapist, right? Like, in my mind, I thought, is Tommy about to like go crazy Tommy and go hunt down his brother's killers? And I'm like, they're leaning away from that altogether. Tommy is actually trying to, they're doing a total 180 from how it was in the game. But I like it because they give that ignorant energy to Ellie and it really drives home her character arc more rather than her trying to be the voice of reason to calm down Tommy, which what we know about the characters and all that, I think actually makes less sense. So I think that was a really good improvement they made narratively. I hope that they don't do it just because, but when moments like that come around, it's like, we can actually shift it this way instead. I hope they lean into it and do it with confidence. To your point, if I just want a one-to-one of the game, I'll just play the game again. Make choices that they feel like will enhance the story and either change it for the better or give us more material to work with for characters who didn't get a lot. And as long as they do that, I feel very good about just how they're doing changes and stuff overall. But well, yeah.
So do we got to talk about like the big spoiler for season 3 for people that haven't played the game?
I don't think so.
Okay, we're not going to talk about it.
No, I don't think so, because we got a lot of folks here who haven't played the game. So let's just let them, and they're divergent. We can like talk about differences that are relevant to the plot now, but I think the big stuff, let them cook. But I'm excited. We'll transition to the last question. I'm excited for. Well, I guess I'll give it to you because I just ran my mouth. How do you feel about what's coming up for next season in terms of knowing what you know, knowing the setup, where things ended? What are your hopes for season 3?
Like, to me, that's sort of the key thing that Last of Us 2 hinges on. Is this pivot point in the game, which we are now at in the TV show. Obviously the end of season 2 alludes to it. We changed perspectives. And so, we're going back a few days into Seattle, and presumably that's what's going to happen in season 3. They could pull a fast one on us. We don't know for sure, but it seems like they're pointing in this direction where we're going to be with Abby earlier on in Seattle, and we're going to see how everything pops off,
converges.
Yeah, and then converges at that theater, I guess.
Yeah, maybe that's the name of the episodes, like Convergence or something. It's like about converging.
And so I'm really excited for that. I think speaking of online hate, I believe Abby, the actress that plays her, has gotten a lot of hate. Again, because she diverges
that's not
from
normal. That behavior is not normal. That is not people being passionate about the show. That is weirdos.
But what I have seen from this Abby on the show from the first couple episodes, I like it. I think she's got this like intensity and sadness, which is perfect for the character. And so I'm excited to see more of Abby. And I'm hopeful that they bring these other characters from Abby's story back into the fold. We're in the game. I can't imagine that they won't be part of this. And that relationship is also just like a key, wonderful, part of the game that I can't wait to see how they adapt that for the show.
Dude, season 2 of this show, I really think is going to be so much better in retrospect.
Absolutely.
There have been so many, not in a bad way, there have been so many moments where, we're not meant to know what's happening. I can't wait to explain. Like Ellie's riding off the boat. She just sees a huge explosion. They ain't got shit to do with what her issue is, her beef, her thing. But we know that's an extremely significant event. And I'm excited to just know, hey, man, in a year or two, we're going to see exactly what the hell happened with that explosion and what's happening with this war. Like, we have this entire Seraphite war happening. The crazy thing about this season is that there's a war happening and they legit have kept it in the background. Like, not in the background in terms of we don't see it, but like, all we're seeing is just them fighting each other or the after effects or the whatever. And I'm like, damn.
Yo, in this world, you just accept that people will be fighting.
Yeah, you're just like, yo, we got to get out of Seattle, bro. This shit is wild. But I'm really excited, and I think it's going to be curious to see what characters and moments you look at that we talked about in this season that now people are going to look back maybe a year or so from now in a very different light. And maybe it'll be for better, for worse, but I'm really excited for that. And that was one of my favorite parts of the game, too, was seeing certain scenes play out from different perspectives and getting that there's your side, and then there's the truth. And I thought the game executed that well, and I have no reason to think the show won't. I think the way that they've paced out some of the stuff, knowing that we're probably going to get a bigger focus on Abby next season, I think they gave us just enough to where I don't feel like we're lacking for information about their side going into it. But they also still kept the focus on Ellie's story without spoiling too much. I thought they did a good job of balancing the two, because if they had given us too much Ellie and no Abby, we would have just been like, yo, I don't give a damn about this.
Yeah, we'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like, who cares? But they've given us just enough to care, just enough to be like, what's going on with these wolves? We've seen all the negative sides of the wolves and them doing all this awful shit, but then we see the stadium that is like a post-apocalyptic paradise, and naturally, I think as a viewer, you're probably going to be like, all right, what's going on? Clearly,
what is this alternate Jackson? Yeah.
Both sides are, brutalizing each other. Like, it gives you a lot of whys that even the characters on our side, on Ellie and them side, like, we don't know what the hell is beef is. We just know they fighting and killing each other. We know some of them is military-ish. We know the others are kind of old school religious. Other than that, we don't know shit. And frankly, we don't care. That's not what we're here for. But the breadcrumbs are enough the world building, right, is enough where I think as a viewer, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, Isaac wants to know where the hell Abby is.
Yeah, and I was like, all right, what's going on? They're hyping up Abby. There's a war. We just been seeing Ellie mad. All right, what's going on? So I'm really excited. I really enjoyed this season. How would you rate it? How would you rate your experience this season?
So I'm more in the camp of like a 7.5, maybe a 7.8 or something like that.
Damn, tough crowd.
I mean, I really enjoy the show. I think there's some unevenness going on. But I also think it's like when the show is coming out, there's so much really good stuff out there.
Yeah.
And that's partially why I'm dragging the score down a little bit, is just because I found myself more excited for other stuff. Like there's kind of an underwhelming there's kind of an underwhelming nature of this season in some regard. Like some of the highs are really high, but then some of the lows are kind of low too. And you know, I just can't give it. Maybe none of this has to do with the show. It all has to do with me, whatever. But
It's
you
still
know,
your opinion.
I don't think it's the greatest thing, but I think it's a very good thing. It's still worth watching. I'm definitely gonna, watch it all the way through next season, season 4, whatever. I'm still with them. I just have such higher hopes. Like I know they can get to another place.
Yeah.
I have seen it. They kind of remind me of the Knicks, man. It's like I know there's a better version of this. They have shown it to me a few times.
Just need a head coach.
I just want that the whole way through.
Fair. I'll probably get us probably 8.5 out of 10. It's a good show. I'm enjoying it. I don't have any complaints. It's entertaining. Like it's pushing all the buttons I want. My only real complaint is just that 7 episodes is just too small, too short.
Yeah, it was too short. Short.
Like
they need a bigger budget.
Unless you're doing like a legitimate mini series where it is a very small, self-contained story or some anthology type shit. If you got one of them shows that's got like these hour-long episodes where you're clearly meant to be following the story closely, I'm sorry, 7 episodes probably just ain't enough. Of all the shows we've been watching with this form, the new formatting now tends to be 7 to 8 episodes. I don't think any of the shows we've talked about on this podcast over the last few years that have been 7, 8 episodes, I think we've almost always said some variation of, hey, an extra episode or 2 would have gone a long way.
10?
Because it felt like
10 would have been nice.
It felt like y'all just needed moments that just needed to be stretched out a little bit. That's it. Like, that's the wild part. It's like the material, you had all the material you needed. You just could have, like, actually, I never thought I'd say this, but hey, y'all probably could have dwelled on this a little longer, actually.
The weird thing is that they did dwell. They dwelled in episode 3. They dwelled in episode 1, and then like everything else after it got compressed. It's weird.
You're right. Maybe they dwelled at the wrong. So maybe like there was pacing, and the pacing was good in some ways and not strong in others. Like, I don't know.
That's why I'm saying it's uneven.
Maybe some pacing. Yeah, so I'll give you that. It's some pacing issues. I think literally an extra episode or 2 would address it pretty easily of just making it. But I couldn't.
For sure. It could have been 9.
Right.
It could have been 10.
We got a dedicated flashback episode. So you're right. Once you start to break it down, I mean, the Seattle arc does take place over 3 days. They keep on having the title cards to explain it. But you're right. Between 7 episodes, between episode 1, 2, that's in Jackson. 3, I think, is still in Jackson. You're right. It's probably not till 4, 5, 6, 7-ish, and 6 is all flashback. So is each episode just a day in Seattle then?
I guess so. It feels weird though, right?
I think
it feels weird,
right? Because if it's 7 episodes, episode 6 was all flashbacks for birthdays.
Yeah,
I think the other ones
4, 5, and 7.
Yeah, so I think it's just over those days. So, maybe. But shit, stretch the day out. Have one day be over 2 episodes.
Yeah, you could be in Seattle a little longer.
Nobody hold a gun in your hand saying, "Hey, each episode has to be each like chronological day." Like, who tells?
What's up with that?
Yeah,
you don't need that.
Yeah, 7 episodes. That's way too short. That's out of pocket, frankly. That's giving like
extend that leash, HBO.
Yeah, man, come on, man. Y'all got the bread.
We need more.
Spend all that money on rebrands and logos. You spend some money on getting an extra episode in.
Yeah, rebrand, which is like a
HBO. You
callback
brand.
Jeez.
But yeah, good stuff. Glad y'all all could meet with us and enjoy this show with us. Let us know when we release this what your thoughts were. Pros, cons, glows, grows. And, what you're excited for, theories, all of that. Reach out to us on our various socials and whatnot.
Yeah, tell us how we're wrong. The last one's here.
But yeah, let us know any other stuff that we should be watching, checking out. Summer's coming up, so a lot of new stuff going to be coming out. We'll probably do What We're Loving soon. But yeah, Brian, have a lovely rest of your day. Audience, love y'all too. Y'all have a great day too.
You as well.
Brian, how to do it? Bye.
Bye-bye.